A long time ago, the world was smack in the middle of a war between humans and monsters. By the end, nobody even remembered why they were fighting in the first place, so they decided to chill out and make peace. Many years later, there are two doctors who specialize in treating monster girls. Dr. Glenn, a human, and his half-snake, half-human assistant, Safi. They're both super skilled and dedicated to their work, but Dr. Glenn is kinda sus. He's way too obsessed with his patients' health, even if it means touching them inappropriately or exposing them in public. Like, for example, one time he was touching this woman's watermelon. Safi is not happy with Dr. Glenn's behavior. She's got a major crush on him and gets jealous when he gets close to other monster girls. One day, they get a letter from Dr. Cthulhu, a half-human, half-octopus monster girl who's also a famous doctor. She asks them to go to the arena and check on her patients while she's away. Glenn is stoked to help his teacher, but Safi is worried. She knows that the arena is full of cute monster girls who might catch Dr. Glenn's eye, and she's right. One of the patients is Thessalia Scythia, a centaur who's the only daughter of Scythia transportation. But at the end of the day, as they're about to leave, Glenn is stopped by two of Thessalia's assistants, Kay and Rona. They're worried and tell him that something must be wrong with Thessalia because she's been losing every match in the arena for the last month. They say that she's super talented and hard-working, so it doesn't make sense for her to lose so much. Glenn, however, is confident in his diagnosis and says that Thessalia is okay, but to make sure, he decides to watch one of her matches. The girl loses again, this time to a cat girl, and Glenn finally sees what the problem is. That night, as Thessalia is training for the next match, Glenn and his two assistants confront Thessalia and capture her. Thessalia is mad at them for interfering, but the next day she wins a match in the arena after losing 10 times in a row. We then go back in time to a flashback during the war. Safi was taken hostage by Glenn's family so that her family wouldn't betray the humans. During that time, they became close friends until the war ended and she went back to her home. Many years later, they met again at the same medical school and became friends again. Next, Glenn and Safi go shopping in the Merrow Waterways, a city built by the dragon lady Skadi. Safi is happy that they are shopping together because she can seduce Glenn, but the boy just sees this as a quick trip to get some supplies. As they reach their destination, a mermaid lady calls them a cute couple and invites them to her place. Safi gets overwhelmed and drags Glenn to the mermaid. The mermaid, Lulala, is a singer who sings for lovers and money, especially lovers. Glenn senses something fishy and asks for a song, but he only pays her 2 copper coins instead of 3. He offers her a free checkup as the 3rd coin, as he expected. The girl can't finish the song and starts coughing. It turns out that she has a disease. Glenn examines her and sees blisters in her mouth. He then checks her gills with his bare hands instead of using tools, because why not? Lulala tells them that she had to work 12 hours a day because her father left her family and she had no money. Suddenly, a young boy falls into the river and interrupts their conversation. Lulala jumps in to save him, but she is completely exhausted when she gets out. As the doctors perform CPR on the boy, Lulala falls into the water again, but this time, the mermaid starts drowning in the water. Glenn sees this and dives in to save Lulala. He performs mouth-to-mouth to force air into her lungs, which makes her gills work again. Safi uses her long tail to drag them out of the water, therefore saving both of them. A few days later, Lulala is totally fine. She scored a new gig at the City Hall in Merrow Waterways, singing her heart out and earning enough dough to support her family. After all the necessary touching Glenn had done, Lulala developed a major crush on him. Meanwhile, in Merrow Waterways, a woman is on a mission to bust some crooks in the city. She chases after them like a maniac, but gets caught in their trap. The next day, they get a visit from Lady Skadi and her bodyguard Kunai. Skadi's a dragon-human hybrid, and Kunai is a human golem made from spare human parts, like a Frankenstein wannabe. Since Skadi's voice is like a whisper, Kunai does all the talking for her. She tells them she lost an arm in a brawl last night and wants them to find it and stitch it back on. Skadi drags her away, but Kunai doesn't want Glenn's help. She's got a bad history with doctors who screwed her up more than they fixed her. She hates doctors with a passion, except for Safi, who she thinks is cool. She tells Glenn to buzz off and says she'll find her arm by herself. She heads back to the streets and spots the same crooks who took her arm. She decides to tail them, but she falls for their trap again. Glenn is determined to help Kunai, so he goes on a quest to find her arm. He bumps into Thessalia. He ventures deeper into the city and runs into Lulala, who has Kunai's arm. Meanwhile, Kunai crawls to a wall and curses her luck. She's missing an arm and a leg, but that's not the worst part. She can still hear the voices of all the people whose body parts were used to make her, so she's basically a human radio. Glenn finds her and offers to help her, but she tells him to take a hike. He ignores her, puts on his glasses, and goes full doctor mode. He fixes her arm and leg and connects all the blood vessels properly. He tells her that this might stop the voices in her head since she'll feel more connected to her body part. She thanks him even though she still hates doctors. The girl thinks Glenn is different from the rest. Back at the clinic, Safi gets a harpy egg from one of her mates. She tries to prank Glenn by telling him she's pregnant, but he's not fooled since he knows snakes lay eggs. Safi shows him the abandoned harpy egg that her friend found on the street. Glenn checks the egg and sees that it's not fertilized, so it's just a big omelet waiting to happen. Outside, some bandits show up and attack the clinic from the front door. The bandits are all human, so Safi beats them up just as easily as she beats Glenn. More bandits show up, so the doctors run outside and meet Kunai. She tells them that the bandits are slavers who kidnap harpies and force them to lay eggs, which they sell to the highest bidders on the black market. The doctors ask for help from the city council, but they're all busy with their own mission to stop the slavers, so the two are forced to join Kunai on the mission. Skadi and Lulala join them as well. Out of nowhere, they get attacked by archers, but Thessalia saves them with her horse powers. Kunai and Thessalia fight the bandits outside, while the doctors go inside with Skadi. They find the harpies that were captured by the bandits. They're all okay except for one harpy who has a stuck egg and is in severe pain. Glenn gets to work and tries to help the harpy deliver the egg safely. Safi fights the bandits and remembers her past. Her own family wanted her to spy on Glenn's family, and also kill the family if the deal with the humans went bad. But Safi gets stabbed by a poison knife. She falls asleep in the middle of the fight. But she wakes up soon though, because the slavers used weak poison. Glenn tells her that the slavers were caught, and the harpy laid her egg safely. Knowing that everything worked out, Safi decides to tell Glenn the truth about her past, but he says he already knew everything. His family did some digging on her when she came to their place. They knew she was there to kill them, but Glenn still wanted to be her friend. But before she can do anything sus, she falls asleep again. The following day, the two doctors go to the Harpy village to help the locals there. Thessalia pulls their carriage through the mountains when suddenly a rock slide happens. Kay and Rona save Thessalia from being harmed, but Kay gets hurt and can't walk anymore. Some male harpies show up and fly Kay to their village like some real bros. The rest of the group follows them. Glenn finally examines Kay's wound at the village and discovers it's just a mild sprain that needs some rest to heal. But Glenn has no time to relax as he has to help many villagers with various problems at the makeshift clinic. After a long day of work, Glenn steps outside for a breath of fresh air and runs into Rona, who looks lost. She explains that she came with Thessalia, but her mistress is busy. Kay's injury has made Rona very anxious, and she almost messed up Thessalia's deal. Thessalia notices Rona's anxiety and asks Glenn to check on her. Glenn is puzzled as Rona has no physical symptoms, but rather a mental issue. Safi suggests that Rona might have a submissive personality and needs to be restrained to feel calm and secure. Glenn then tries a forbidden and ancient move. He binds and blindfolds Rona. To his surprise, Rona feels much better as she can concentrate on her work. Glenn wonders if Rona just likes being tied up, but Glenn overcomes his demons and firmly rejects them. I see that Glenn is only interested in trying them out, not marrying them. Kay and Rona still hope that Glenn will become their master someday. The group goes to see Illy, the harpy who had been Glenn's patient when they were captured by the bandits. Illy had avoided Glenn's treatment in his makeshift clinic, so he decided to visit her at her home. Illy has lost her ability to fly after the bandit incident, which has shattered her self-esteem. Glenn examines her again and uses his sixth sense to take her temperature and pulse with his bare hands. I wonder what those hands can do. he discovers that Illy isn't sick at all. She was just losing her feathers so that she could grow new ones. Illy is furious with Glenn's diagnosis. She refuses to believe that her flightlessness was caused by some missing feathers. She runs out of the house in a rage. Tissalia follows her and finds out that Illy wanted to be a gladiator like her and fight in the arena. Illy challenges Tissalia to a duel, but she is no match for the seasoned fighter. Tissalia grabs one of Illy's feathers during the fight, which she gives to Glenn. Glenn realizes what the problem is and collects all of Illy's fallen feathers around the town and rushes to find her. Glenn tells Illy that she is molting, but not in a normal way. Illy has phoenix blood in her veins, so she is replacing her old feathers with new ones that have phoenix properties. A few days later, Illy proves Glenn right by flying with her new rainbow wings. Glenn touches one of her feathers and feels its heat. He wonders how much of a phoenix Illy really is. Glenn and Safi also give the Harpies some tips on how to care for their wings and claws when they are about to leave. Some Harpies come in soaked and covered in a white, creamy, and tasty liquid. It turns out to be spider silk, and it is everywhere in the forest. While exploring, they meet Aranya, a Spiderwoman who is a famous dressmaker and Safi's best friend. Aranya says she wants to catch Illy and see her rainbow wings, but when she hears that there are many Harpies in the village, she is overjoyed and follows Glenn and Safi there. In the village, Aranya meets Illy and begs her to let her touch her feathers. She says that she just wants to stroke her feathers, just one little stroke, or perhaps a small squeeze, nothing more. The next day, the girls head to the hot springs, hoping it'll help Safi feel better. Meanwhile, at the clinic, Aranya spots Glenn all alone and seizes the chance to hit him up. She lures him deep into the forest and traps him in her web, hoping to make him her main squeeze and get closer to Safi, and saves Glenn from the web. Aranya tries to claim she and Tissalia are the same, both wanting Glenn, but Tissalia shuts her down, saying she loves Glenn for real and isn't a jerk like her. They're about to throw down, but Safi shows up and scolds her friends before whisking Glenn away. Back at the clinic, Safi and Glenn chill with some drinks. Safi pours her heart out, confessing her love for Glenn. She says he doesn't have to return her feelings since she knows he's got a wandering eye, but then they hear some loud racket outside. They head out with the rest of the village and see the giant goddess Giga stomping their way. They're clueless about why she's so mad and ready to meet their maker, but Tesla ain't having it. She leads them out of town to safety. Illy, the fastest flyer, jets off to Glenn's town to talk to Lady Scotty. Glenn and the others pack their bags and plan to ditch town before the goddess gets any closer, but they realize Tessalia's missing. The brave centaur takes it upon herself to confront the giant goddess. Tissalia figures if she slays a goddess, Glenn will have to marry her. Safi and Glenn catch up to her and try to talk some sense into her, but then the giant sneezes so hard the whole forest shakes. She introduces herself as Dione and says she came to the village because she heard there was a doctor who could cure her cold. Glenn checks her out and realizes she's got a simple cold. He gives her some meds and asks Aranya to whip up some warm clothes so she doesn't have to freeze in the buff. Glenn finishes up with the goddess and heads home. He reopens his clinic and meets Tissalia for dinner. Unsurprisingly, Tissalia thinks it's a date and tells him how she was ready to die for him, but then Safi shows up and crashes the party. Can someone in the comments spill the beans on this guy's secret? The next day, the whole gang heads to the Marrow waterways for the ceremony. Glenn, though, notices something's off with Scotty's tail. Scotty's giving her speech, but she suddenly faints in front of everyone. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and see you on the next episode. Love you guys.